Let us now know how Gandhiji started off his Dandi March or the historic March, 12th March 1930. The Congress Working Committee met in February 1930 at Sabarmati Ashram and vested Gandhiji's powers to launch the civil disobedient movement. So the Congress Working Committee met in the month of February 1930 at Sabarmati Ashram and vested all the powers to Gandhiji to launch the civil disobedient movement. So Gandhiji then made the 11 demands. They were very simple, such as doing away with salt law, the reduction of land tax, but the Viceroy did not satisfy the demands, calling them unrealistic. So what did the Viceroy call it as? He called it as unrealistic demands. Now, among the 11 demands, what were the main demands? It was to do away with the salt law and reduction of the land tax. So let us now see what happened on 12th March 1930. So Gandhiji decided to start the civil disobedient movement by breaking the salt law. He chose to break salt law to mark the beginning of civil disobedient movement, as salt was used by everyone, that is the rich, the poor, in rural and urban areas. Even the Indians used it and the Britishers also used it. Now, without adding salt, will the food taste good? Yes, of course. Now, this was indirectly told to the Britisher because we have this in the Bible also mentioned. If the salt loses its value, it has to be thrown onto the ground and the people will tramp onto it. So, in Gospel of Matthew, it is said these two things are very, very important. So, you should be like a salt of the earth and you should be like the light. Nobody lights a candle and puts it under the table. They put it on the table for it to glow for everybody. So, Gandhiji also had taken this from the Bible in order to say to the Britishers. So, the main thing why did he take salt is, it is because salt was used by everyone. The rich, the poor, the rural and in the urban, the Britishers as well as the Indians. So, to break the salt law, Gandhiji walked from Sabarmati Ashram to Dandi. Okay. So, from this particular ashram, now as you see it on the board, it is Sabarmati Ashram and 78. How many people started? The 78 inmates of this particular ashram. Now, probably Gandhiji started with 78 inmates. So, as he started, it would have become more than this, 780. So, from 780, it would have become 7,800. And then it would have multiplied. So, it was a mass movement. So, he walked from Sabarmati Ashram to Dandi. 78 people followed, or the inmates followed him in the beginning. But many more joined on the way. He reached Dandi and he broke the salt law on 6th April 1930. So, it was from here he started on 12th March 1930. He reached here and finally broke this particular law. That was to define salt tax. This march from Sabarmati Ashram to Dandi is called as Dandi March. The program of this particular movement was defiance of salt laws, boycott of liquor, boycott of foreign cloth and goods, and non-payment of taxes and revenue. So let's take a quick recap. So what is this particular march called as? It is called as a Dandi March, or it is called as a Great Historic March. So when did he start, Gandhiji start this? 12th March 1930. Now what was the main objective of this? It was to break the salt tax or salt law. From where did he start? He started from Sabarmati Ashram, which is in Gujarat. How many inmates joined? 78 inmates. Then on 6th April 1930, what did he ask the people to do? Defy salt tax. And then, what were the programs of this moment? It was the defense of the salt tax, boycott of liquor, boycott of foreign clothes and goods, and non-payment of revenue. Now, another question, very important question is, why did he choose salt? There are so many other commodities, so why did he choose salt? Because salt was an essential commodity which was used by everyone, both rich and the poor, and rural and urban. Even the Indians also used it, Indians as well as the British. So without salt, the food doesn't taste very good. Now let's see the progress of the movement. The people started making and buying illegal salt. People organized mass movement. Women joined in large number, leaving out their parda system. People were prevented from buying foreign goods. They refused to pay tax. They started picketing liquor shops. Now, what happened in the northwestern frontier province? The brave Pathans under the leadership of Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan. What was his name? 4 names and 1 person. Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan. How will you remember? Start with one Khan and end with another Khan. Okay. Popularly called as Frontier Gandhi, organized the Kudai Khidmatgars, or which is called as Servants of God. Popularly they were called as the Red Shirts. So let's take a quick recap. So what was the progress of the movement? The people started making and buying illegal salt. People organized mass movement. Women joined in large numbers, living out their parda system, coming out and participating in this struggle. And hence that's why there was a big, huge mass participation in the civil disobedience movement. People prevented buying foreign clothes. Last unit we saw they created bonfires at the crossroads, and they refused to pay taxes. Picketing of liquor shop, even picketing of the liquor shop, it was not only foreign goods, it was picketing of the liquor shop. And in the northwestern frontier province, the brave Pathans under the leadership of Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan, popularly called as Frontier Gandhi, started the organization called as Kudai Khidmatgars, which means the servants of God, and they are popularly called as the Red Shirts. Now, the enthusiasm of the historic march spread like forest fire. It looked the whole country of India was marching behind whom? The great leader Mahatma Gandhi-ji. It is said that Lord IRWIN, who was a viceroy at that particular time, wrote a letter to Mahatma Gandhi-ji and said, with a small issue of salt, you have woven a fine embroidery around the whole of India. With a small issue of salt, you have woven a fine embroidery. That means you have taken the whole country of India under your sway with a small issue of salt. So that's why a beautiful sentence which describes Gandhiji is, he spoke and the nation listened. So one man speaking and the whole nation is listening. He walked and the nation moved. Such a beautiful sentence for this great person, Mahatma Gandhiji. Now let us see how the British government will manage the whole situation. The whole crowd is behind Mahatma Gandhiji. This particular civil disobedience is spread far and wide, not only in Gujarat but in the whole India. They are participating. And what did the people do wherever they did not find possibility of making salt? They were involved in other activities like boycotting of schools and colleges, stop paying the forest tax, and all these things took place. So the British government found it very difficult to subdue the Indians. It was very, very difficult. Why? Because it is Mahatma Gandhiji is leading the crowd using a simple weapon, which is non-violence. So they could not do anything. So very methodically, in a very shrewd manner, what did the British do? They finally wanted to hold the first round table conference in London. So this was only to subdue the moment which has taken place. As I told you earlier, the government now found it very difficult to subdue the Indians, and thus they held the first round table conference in London. It started in the year 1930, November 12th, and concluded January 1931. The Congress was unhappy with the British government and they boycotted, and the British realized the futility of holding the conference without the Congress. So what did they do? They held the first round table conference in London. Why? Because they found it very difficult to subdue the Indians. The Congress boycotted, saying that we are not going to attend the first round table conference, and finally the British realized the futility of holding the conference without the Congress. Since the Satyagraha could not be suppressed, the government through Tej Bahadur, Sapru and Jaikar started negotiation with Gandhiji in jail. This resulted in signing of the Pact by Gandhiji and Lord IRWIN, the Viceroy, in March 1931. So who was Viceroy at that particular time? It was Lord IRWIN. And this particular pact was called as Gandhi-IRWIN Pact. Now what did the British government agree to do? The first one, it agreed to withdraw all ordinances and end prosecution. The second, it wanted to release all the prisoners, political prisoners, except those who were found guilty. Third, permit peaceful picketing of liquor and foreign cloth shop. So what did the British government agree to do? Withdraw all ordinances and end prosecution, release all the political prisoners except those who were found guilty, permit peaceful picketing of liquor and foreign cloth shops. Let us see what else the British government agreed to do. To restore the confiscated properties of Satyagrahis and to permit free collection or manufacture of salt by persons near the sea coast. So they allowed them to manufacture of salt for the persons, those who are staying near the sea coast. They returned back all the confiscated properties. They permitted for a peaceful picketing of liquor and foreign cloth shops. To release all the political prisoners except those who are found guilty of violence. And withdraw all the ordinances and end the prosecution. Now this particular thing, you have to learn it very well because this is an important question. So let us now see what the Congress in turn consented to do for the British. Now let us see what the Congress agreed to do for the British. The first one, they suspended the civil disobedience movement. They said they are going to participate in the second roundtable conference and not to press. It is not to press for investigation into police excesses. Now, what did the Congress decide to do or agree to do? Suspend the civil disobedience movement, to participate in the second roundtable conference. Now, whom did the British want to participate mainly? It was the Congress along with Gandhiji. to take up a decision and not to press for investigation into police excesses. The Second Roundtable Conference, September 7 to December 1, 1931, was attended by Gandhiji as a sole representative. The conference was soon deadlocked on the minority issue, with separate electorates being demanded, not only by the Muslim but also by the depressed classes, such as the Indian Christians, Anglo-Indians and the Europeans. The question of independence or setting up of a responsible government receded into the background. So nothing was told about giving us a responsible government. So Gandhiji immediately returned back to India empty-handed. He was not satisfied with the answers or discussion done in the Second Roundtable Conference. So what is the question over here is, who attended the Second Roundtable Conference? Gandhiji, only Gandhiji attended, or he was a sole representative. Why was there a deadlock? The conference was soon deadlocked because of the minorities issue, with separate electorates being demanded, not only by the Muslim but also by the depressed classes. So what did the British government do? It receded, the giving us a responsible government receded back. So Gandhiji returned back empty-handed. He could not achieve anything in the Second Roundtable Conference. Now let us see why Gandhiji called off the civil disobedience movement and later renewed it. Gandhiji realized that emphasis was being laid on communal problems rather than political solutions. So what is it? Gandhiji realized that the emphasis was being laid on communal problems rather than the political solutions. So they did not give a solution for our independence at all. With no clear solution in sight, Gandhiji returned back empty-handed. And also, Gandhiji Iron Pact was violated by the British bureaucrats. So he did not like this, and therefore he gave a call to renew the civil disobedience movement. Now, did you all understand, students? It is Gandhiji realized that emphasis was being laid on the communal problems rather than political solutions, with no clear solution in sight. Gandhiji returned back empty-handed, and also the Gandhi Iron Pact was violated by the British bureaucrats, and therefore he gave a call to renew the civil disobedience movement. Well, student, we have completed the third. Well, students, let's learn about the impact of the civil disobedience movement. The civil disobedience movement played a significant role by deepening the social roots of freedom struggle. So let's know more about it. The movement caused a lot of patriotic fervor, and the British government was in no way in peace. It widened the base and increased its pace in freedom struggle. A large number of social groups like merchants and shopkeepers, peasants, tribals and workers in different parts of the country were mobilized for the Indian national movement. It made the people understand the significance of the principles of non-violence. So let's repeat. The movement caused a tide of patriotic fervor. What happened to the British? The British government was no way in peace. So it widened the base and increased the pace in freedom struggle. So a large number of social groups like merchants, shopkeepers, peasants, tribal and workers were involved in this freedom movement. It made the people understand the significance of the principles of non-violence. That's what Gandhiji wanted, and they were deeply rooted in it, and they began to understand the importance of non-violence. And that's why India's freedom is called as unique. So by using non-violence method, Gandhiji got us the freedom. And that's why it is in the pages of history, and many of the other countries also took this particular principle in order to fetch freedom for themselves. The next one, this movement revived the will to fight the elections, and the Congress achieved positive results. That means the Congress won in the election and more number of seats were there in the legislature. The women participated in large number. They left their parda system. The women walked out very boldly and participated in the civil disobedience movement throughout India. This movement popularized new method of propaganda, Parbat fairies, in which hundreds of men and women went around singing patriotic songs in the wee hours of morning, which became popular in towns and villages. At the same time, handwritten patrikas or newspapers were circulated among the people. Even children also participated in large numbers. The Vanara Sena by the boys and the girls as Manjari Sena or the cat army began to go around for the freedom struggle. So a large number of people, it was not only the elderly people, the middle-aged people, even the young children participated. That's what it says. The boys called themselves as Vanara Sena and the girls as Manjari Sena or the cat army went around propagating this particular movement. And thus this particular moment created enthusiasm among the whole masses of India. So let's take a quick recap of what impact did the civil disobedience movement create. The movement caused a tide of patriotic fervor. The British government was no way in peace. It widened the base and increased the pace in freedom struggle, and a large number of social groups were mobilized in a greater national movement. It made people understand the significance and the principles of non-violence, which was promoted by Gandhiji. And they revived to fight for election, and the Congress won a number of seats in the legislature with a positive result. So the women participated in large number, leaving out their homes, and they came out in order to participate in the civil disobedience movement. And the next one is this movement popularized a new method of propaganda. What was the new method? Parbat fairies, in which hundreds of men and women went around singing patriotic songs in the wee hours of morning, which became popular in towns and villages. Handwritten patrikas or newspapers were circulated, and even the children participated. So the boys took up the Vanara Sena and the girls called themselves as Manjari Sena or the cat army, went around for this particular struggle. And that's why we say the civil disobedience movement was a historic record, and it had a significant role which deepened the social roots of the freedom struggle. Thank you. Well, students, let us take a quick recap of this lesson, whatever we have learnt. So we have learned the methods followed by Mahatma Gandhiji for freedom struggle: Swadeshi, boycott, passive resistance, then mass participation. Then we saw the major incidents of the non-cooperation movement, which made Gandhiji to launch the non-cooperation movement. Under the major incidents, we saw the three, the Rowlatt Act, the Jallianwala Bagh massacre, and the Khilafat movement. Then the objectives, we learnt about the objectives of the non-cooperation movement. What were the programs and the activities followed in the non-cooperation movement? and we concluded the non-cooperation with its impact. So all this comes under Unit 1. And I have given an assignment for this. Please do the assignment. Answer the questions and keep it ready. In Unit 2, we learnt about the factors that led Mahatma Gandhiji to launch the civil disobedience movement, that is about the Simon Commission, which came to India in the year 1927, and the declaration of Purna Swaraj, which became a significant event in Indian history. In Unit 3, we learnt about the Dandi March, or the historic march, followed by the first roundtable conference, Gandhi-IRWIN Pact, second roundtable conference, Gandhiji's call for civil disobedience movement and its renewal. And finally, we winded up with the impact of the civil disobedience movement. Well, students, this is an important chapter which usually comes for 10 marks. So pay attention, listen to the videos once again, learn from your textbook, read it properly and understand. So whatever is being prescribed, I have taught you all. So learn this lesson very well, because many of the questions come here for 10 marks. Thank you. Students, here's an assignment for you all with regard to Unit 2 and 3 with Lesson 6. Answer the following question. The civil disobedience movement was significant in the history of the national movement. In this context, write briefly on the following points. First one, the circumstances leading to the civil disobedience movement. Second, the second roundtable conference. And the third, Gandhi-IRWIN Pact. The second question, the Simon Commission was appointed in November 1927 by the British government. Subsequently, the civil disobedience movement began. With regard to this, answer the following question. Why was a commission appointed by the British government? Second one, mention the significance of the historic march. And the third question is, why did Gandhiji call off the civil disobedience movement and later renew it? The next question, Gandhiji campaigned against the salt law. State the reason. Fourth one, state any two programs involved in the civil disobedience movement. Fifth, name the famous march undertaken by Gandhiji. Where did he begin this? How many inmates joined him? The last question, why was Simon Commission rejected by the Congress? You have to answer all these questions and keep it ready. As soon as the lockdown is lifted, we will check your notes. Thank you.